Welcome to the Walt Weekly podcast with your host, Walter Latham Sr., and co-host, Michelle Sweeney McCombs. Today's show, Men's Night, their version of Ladies' Night, roles, expectations, and parenting today. Today's guests, returning panel members, Christopher Sweeney, retired sanitation worker and owner of Johnny Ruth's Smokehouse. We also have Gregory Coleman, owner of Illumination Media and Technology, and also the Walt Weekly Audio Video Tech. Welcome to the show. Enjoy the show, folks.
Right?
What I agree with that, Walt, but I'm not saying education is not the key. Getting a trade is an education.
Yeah, but getting a degree is also an education. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not, but it's the same thing.
I got a master's, and I got certifications, credentials.
But what we're not saying that a traditional education is not necessary. But the statistics you just gave were measuring success based solely on a traditional college education.
But that was not. I wasn't measuring success. Okay, I was just measuring. You can go to college and get a doctorate degree, and you can't do anything in the job market, and you can't support your family.
Yeah, but what are those statistics saying?
The thing is, now let me go back and harken back to Ma. Well, she used to tell me, you can have all the education in the world, but if you don't have common sense, you have nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay,
that's the truth.
And I think right now we got people walking around with degrees up and down and got no common sense.
Educated fools.
There you go.
Educated fools. But my point was, and sometimes we dig ourselves, and this is what Chris was saying, we dig ourselves into traps trying to go, and again, I think this leads to a certain degree of elitism. We're pushing for that dream that was created for us, fighting to get in to these big schools, create mountains and mountains of debt, mm-hmm. and foregoing some great trade, some great education, and I also read, and how statistics can be skewed. There was a comparison done, and I don't have all the exact figures, that African Americans in this country predominantly go toward the trades in education and stay away from science and math, so they don't flip those degrees into the most marketable fields, which is science and math. They'll be teachers, they'll be professors, and they don't make the money.
They don't go to Wall Street.
They don't make the money.
I had a friend of mine that was a teacher who had a master's, and here I am picking up garbage, and she couldn't touch my salary.
That's right.
And she was highly offended by it. And I understood why, because she said, I spent a lot of money to get here, but that's the trap, because that's not our dream. Yep. And I get it, right? Look at, there's a movement right now of some very, very wealthy people in this country trying to roll back affirmative action and all of these other programs that helped us get into a lot of these Ivy League schools and all these other colleges, right? And right now, these for-profit colleges are profiting off of Black Americans more than anybody, because white American men are not going to college. So if they block us out, who's going to these schools?
They don't need to go.
But who's going? But
you're not going to college. You're not getting education. Is a bad thing. Okay, but one thing I can tell you, we have to think, right? We are back, so we defer to athletic, physically serious, right? Okay, so and we defer to entertainment, athlete, and stuff of that nature. What are we building? What are we creating? I mean, college teaches you how to think. Even if you go for 2 years.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. But before we could go to college, Walt, Before we could
disagree
go
with
to
you.
college, we were thriving before we were allowed into these places. You know why? Because the education doesn't start at college. It starts before then.
Starts in the home. You're right.
It
Yeah,
starts
I concur.
it
Yeah.
starts at the beginning, grade school, all the way up. If you get to college and you don't know anything because you slept through 1 through 12, what good are you in college?
Okay.
And you got to turn to
when you put it
sports.
like
Yeah.
that, now I can understand it. But the thing is that I want all our people educated in one way or other, whether it be
I mean,
college
it's the
or
same as
trade or something like that. We must, for us to advance, we must do that.
and that's the argument.
Some of us are advancing without it. And the
And
ones
that's
that
what
have it are still
That's
below
why
the
we in the
ones
spot
that
we
didn't
in
get
right
it.
now. Why are we the lowest on the ladder? I mean, besides the racism and the bias that's in the system. Okay,
Well,
but how
that's
do
the
we get
main
away
thing.
from that? How do we get up off the ground? Are we on the ground?
I think us as a people got to be much more well-rounded than that. Also, we can't just depend on these big money schools to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to educate us. There's so many other ways, Walt.
And they
Education should be
taking out
free.
and they taking out
Education should be free.
curriculum.
Yeah,
And
but
they're
it's not.
taking out curriculum that
Exactly. That's
teaches
another
us the
thing.
truth. Now they're not even teaching you the truth in these schools. They're removing books and curriculum.
They're moving Black history. That's the thing.
Yep.
We go down to Florida.
Right.
That's why we want to boycott Florida. If we're going to Florida, we understand down there. You need it.
Well, what
Look
difference
at-
would it make if you boycott it? They're
That's
still
right.
going to do
Get a
what they
refund
want.
if
It's
you're
the
going to
people that voted for him to put him in the office. What
But look
good is
look
that
how
do?
angry we get when we see Mexicans coming to this country. They're masons. They're doing paver work. They're putting roofs on. They're doing it. You know why? Because they learned those trades. And we stuck our nose up to those things and we don't know how to do it. And we relied on these other people to do it for us because everybody, no disrespect, is chasing a college degree. We need some, hold on, let me finish. We need some people to learn these trades to keep us going. College is not for everyone. Everyone should get educated, but it should not be in that space. Some people are just not built for it. They're not going to be successful in it, and they're going to leave with debt and be broken people. Where some people are skillful. You could tell when somebody has a skill set early on. They're great with their hands. They know how to make things. They know how to build things. And we should encourage those people when we see them. Hey, yes, you could go get an education, but you need to go get an education in this. We need to foster the great things that we see in our kids. You could see it early on. Sure, you might see a kid that is extremely talented in basketball. And what do? We nurture that talent. We feed into it. We pour everything into that. You should do the same thing with a kid who's an excellent painter. Or,
I agree with you, Chris. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Just clarify what I'm trying to say, okay? Not college is not for everybody. I'm the last one. I'm the first one to say no. It's not for everybody. But we do need, for those that can, all right, take a track of, let's say, STEM. You know, my granddaughters, I paid for that STEM from 4 years old, all right? And they continue to do so, all right? That I want them, I don't want them to have boundaries. I don't want ceilings over them. I want them to be able to tackle what's coming up, okay? And I expect them to go to college.
But what did you just say? You nurtured that from 4 years old, though. You started early.
I nurtured that in my kids, their parents.
Yes, but you started early. You grabbed them early and you nurtured it. We're not doing that. We're not nurturing our children. And then when they get to the 12th grade, we're sending them off to a higher education that is not free, and they are not prepared for it. And they're coming back saddled with debt.
I paid them off myself.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. You're feeding into your grandkids right now. You're pouring into them. You started when they were 4 years old. So when they get to the 12th grade and they're going off to college, they are prepared for the college experience, the life. They're not going to be prepared for everything being on their own, but they have a foundation rooted in education that is that helps them be successful. Far too many of our kids are not doing well in school. They're not being nurtured. They're not being poured into.
Because one, I mean, I think the problem, we still keep circling back to desegregation. When I went to school, I went to an all-black school. All right? And I never thought that I had less in terms of what I could achieve. I wasn't horrible by that. I was smarter for that because they took the time to nurture me, right? Okay? And so when I went to these white schools, no problem. When I went to work,
blow past them.
Yeah, it's no problem. We need to educate our kids. If we go back into what we've done in the past, when I talk about segregation and what is done to us, that's what it is now.
But can I tell you something
of that?
I agree with that.
I do too. But let me tell you what I've learned over the last couple of years. That you know who one of the biggest proponents against, like one of the ways that some communities lacking, good teachers, the educational skills to get ahead, they're going around it by creating charter schools. And there's a big push now. So some liberal institutions and teachers unions are the biggest opponents of these charter schools because and the first thing they do is say, it's segregation. It's segregation again. It's segregation again. So, but they created a system, the public school system, that already shows that it can't educate our kids. And that a lot of the teachers don't really have the skill set to do it. And they really don't have the incentive because the teachers union pretty much made it possible that they don't have to be really good at it and they'll still have their jobs.
Yep, you got to show up. New
York City schools, they have 400, as of 2020, there's 450 teachers in it's probably about 700 teachers in what they call the rubber room. They've either drugs, alcohol, sexual allegations against them. They can't teach in the classroom. But because of the union, they're still making money. They can't get fired and they're still getting a paycheck. There's charter schools now in New York City that exist in older schools. And I went to Springfield Gardens High School. There's a charter school that's in Springfield Gardens High School now. It's 4 different schools. That charter school of the kids and they outperform the public school, Springfield Gardens High School, in every category and every age group. They outperform them. But the Board of Education does everything they can to stipend that, to squelch that.
Yeah, because you're stepping on their meal ticket. Of course they're gonna fight that.
We're good with that.
But we got to be careful because I have a friend of mine whose children go to charter school, and they were doing great. They hit a roadblock in the fact that there was some curriculum that they wanted them to learn, and the charter school said no. They refused to do it, and a majority of the parents were on board with this curriculum. But because the charter school is not governed the same way the Board of Education is, they couldn't do anything about it. So each of them have their, the public school and the teachers union are to blame for charter schools. They're the reasons charter schools are there. Absolutely. They created.
I think, and one of my shows, one of the earliest shows that I did, and I think it was part of the school segregation thing that I did. I proposed that our kids, the African-American kids, have their own school up until they're in the 8th grade. When they finish 8th grade, then they can integrate into the regular school. Because if you look at the regular schools, the public school system, most of the teachers are white women. They don't know anything about us.
I'll take it a step further.
They stereotype us right away because they're not from our culture.
I'll take it a step further. They don't know anything about us. They're intimidated by us also.
They're afraid of us.
How you going to teach kids you scared of?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think we should pull back our kids and put them in a black African American school.
But
All right?
look at the demographics.
But I think that's up to 8th grade. Once we educate them through 8th grade, and then when they go to high school, let them integrate into the regular, school. That's what I
Look at
think.
the demographics of most community charter schools and who's teaching your kids.
Yeah. What role models are in our public schools now?
Community.
Some of the first role models I had were my band director in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I got a music scholarship because of him. I used to play trumpet. I wanted to be like Mr. Norris. All right? And also had other role models that I saw on TV that I wanted to be, like Dick Van Dyke and these guys, Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think it's true with the schools because when Justin, if you remember, Chris, he was in a private school, black private school. And at one point I couldn't afford to keep him there, so I transferred him to public school. And I found that he had a lot of issues, couldn't relate to the teachers, the kids, the behavioral patterns and all of that. So he found his niche, which was early with music. So he had something to keep him going.
But I got a question for you, Shell. So initially when he started having these problems, did you think the problem was him or did you think the problem was the school?
I think it was the parenting and the school, the parents of the children and the school, because I worked in school with him. So I saw it daily. And another thing I did notice, getting back onto the parenting side of it, a lot of the kids working in the system could be siblings, and I did not know that. They had different last names. So when I meet the parents and they're like, oh, this is my child, that's my child, they have different fathers, and the father's not in the picture. So that was another problem with behavioral patterns and women trying to raise boys.
Let me ask y'all something though. And me, Greg, Michelle, we were closely in age, right? When we went to public school, I had the best of everything when I went to public school. I had a cooking class, I had hygiene, I had band, we had sports, we had all of those things, and we were all. And this is public school.
Yeah,
this wasn't a charter school. This wasn't private school. We had all of those things. Band was extremely important to me when I was in public school. I played in the citywide band. I traveled to other schools. We had concerts, big challenges. We went against each other. It was fantastic. They started gutting those programs because they were putting out quality kids from all of that. And let me go back to this too. HBCU schools were churning out. This is going back in the 50s and the 60s. The best athletes out there. The only reason, in my opinion, that those white schools started allowing us to go to those schools because they wanted the athletes. That's all it was. Because it was big money for these kids to play college sports, college football, college basketball, all of these things. And they gutted the HBCU schools. Our kids stopped going there, and we started going over there. So some of our greatest athletes, Doug Williams, all these guys went to HBCUs.
Doug Williams went to college. I only did 1 year.
Grambling?
City State University. That's where I got my music
scholarship
from.
Okay.
State. Okay, we used to play Norfolk
State. They took all of that away. That's why these kids don't have anything in school to look forward to. They misbehave. They have nothing. They don't give anything. The school that Justin was at in Brooklyn was a brand new school. They had, I worked under the VP. And I saw all the stuff coming in. I saw the supply room full of instruments. They had no music class.
Probably nobody to even teach it.
Back to what y'all was saying earlier, it's the community, it's the village, and that's been taken away from us over the last 30, 40 years. Chris, one of my most memorable teachers, that probably my favorite teacher, was in junior high school 275 in Brownsville. In 8th grade, Mr. Taylor, a strong black male. He taught us, he cared about us. He'd grab us around the neck and pull us in the hallway if we jacked up. But you know what? We respected that.
But we are proof that you could get a quality education from city schools if they put those programs back in place. And they did all of those things, and they got well-rounded teachers who, just like police force, you have to have people that look like you in these roles.
There you go. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Chris, you hit the nail on the head right there. You hit it on the head. We have to have people that look like us, that understand us.
Yep.
Have some we have a culture. All right. Okay. That's why a lot of our kids, I mean, both boys and girls, get sent to special ed because the teachers don't understand them.
Right.
I mean, when I was in school, and I'm quite sure when you were in school, how many people had to go to special ed? And call your mother, your parents.
I mean, you went to
behavioral problems.
If there was some serious developmental issues with you, then you went to.
Now that you were, exactly. You had some mental issues or something like that.
But everybody else was in the regular classroom.
Listen,
if you did that.
You have 6 and 7 year olds being brought into the principal's office, and the police being called on them because these teachers don't know how to handle them. Right. Who calls the cops? The resource officer on a 6-year-old, and they're putting these kids in handcuffs in the back of car. They're traumatized.
But that's why I say and Chris, you brought up a good point, about how, in certain charter schools when they shifted the curriculum. But I'd wonder exactly how long that charter school is going to be, in existence if you don't have the parents behind you, because they control the flow. If ain't nobody flowing, then they'll shut down.
I was pointing out that charter school, I like charter schools, but I also don't want to think that they're perfect.
No,
they're
absolutely not. But my point was,
in the public school system, there is much more space for your kids to be more well-rounded if they supported the schools the way they should. If the teachers union was held more accountable than they are. Everything has got
teacher conferences.
To me, that's a big deal.
Everything has gotten away from the basics. We think we need to reinvent it, and we don't, because it worked. So why are you changing it? If it worked before, you know why? Because before, like I said, we went to public school, and public school was turning out quality kids.
But here's
one thing that we need to do, and when we look at this episode, or when we go to edit this episode, we want to track back to why we're doing this episode, right? And we got to answer, we got to respond to the women, right? And I think that we have to circle back. Now let's circle back to things that were said, but okay, I was trying to make my point. I was representing y'all guys the best I could, but it was their show. So it was very little that I could say, right? I only could put, sometimes I just couldn't help myself. I had to jump in. Right?
As you know, me and Keena, just to get on it a little bit, we also had differences. So
yeah. Thank you.
All right. I had someone helping me.
See, there you go. So
I acknowledge, my man in the situation. So she had a different situation. So it was two sides to that.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's going to tell their story.
Right. But there's one thing here, is that is there a paradigm shift going on in terms of who should be the leader of the household based on the amount of money that they make?
No.
So I could tell you, my wife, if my wife made more than me, then I know one time she did. Like maybe
you got a big ego, that's why.
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah, I am. I do. I can't.
Sure, I'd be happy if my wife was more than me. I'm good with it. Bring it home.
But I was uncomfortable, just like Martin.
I think Lyle was a little bit like that too.
Episode with Martin, where his wife was making more than.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I just can't help. But
Chris would love it.
You know why? Because we could still have the same. The dynamics don't have to change. We can't let the money change us, right? The money, whether it's coming in, it's still gotta run the household. And whoever is the strongest, like I go shopping, I do all the shopping. food, grocery shopping. I pay the bills. I don't get no pushback.
You pay the bills too?
Yeah.
You
All
do
right, and then
everything.
you go shopping and all that kind of
But
stuff.
I'm a better, you know why? Because I'm a better shopper than she is. And she'll admit to that.
This is volunteer. You volunteer to do it.
Right. No, I volunteer to do it. Like, listen, I don't have a
Because-
problem.
right.
First of all, I don't have a problem as a man being everything I need to be to my family. And we need to recognize that. Sometimes you gotta, swallow your pride, not just swallow your pride, but you know what I mean? Recognize that maybe your family needs you to be more. And it's okay to be more.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? It's okay to be more.
You know, we say, I hear in churches, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck
It's the
that
body.
turns the head.
Mhm.
But that's all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Great.
But
but-
those are where you pick up on the weaknesses of the other person. You pick up.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So
that's true.
Right. You have to first of all, both sides. You have to recognize who you chose as a mate
mhm.
and come to terms with that and understand this is what I got to work with, and if I want to be here, I chose this. I got to make it work.
Talk
I
to
gotta
him.
You have to-
for your guys.
Mhm.
Right. Answer me
Right.
honest. Who should be head of the house? Who do you think? Man or the woman?
The one that makes more money.
Right. She said
The
woman.
man.
Are
Would
you
dictate who went
serious?
ahead. I'm asking.
I'm only playing.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm listen. He know better. Chris
Poisoning the
know.
I don't
water.
know what I started
She poisoned the
now.
No, Chris
water.
know. I feel like the man because my dad he was a good role model. So that's most women, if you were raised properly, look in a mate someone that's similar to their father, and that's what I did. Compatibilities. So I feel Walter, yes, the man. I was only playing. Because I ain't trying to be the head. I ain't trying to do all of that. Nope. I have my functions and I'm good with it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Chris.
I agree with the same state. I agree that the man should be the head, even if she made more money, bring the money home. And hey, baby, this is the money. I'm going to let you go out and do what you need to do with it. But it doesn't mean she doesn't have any input with that. It's just we have to be in unison, a show of force. When we step out the house, we are on the same step. We're on the same wavelength. Meaning, hey, I defer to my man, but he's not my boss. He's my man. And she's not my boss. She's my woman.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
Totally agree.
But you don't have to ask me. The man
Greg,
should
I know,
be the
but
head
I
of
want
the
you to
household.
just elaborate.
It's
a little bit.
biblically based.
Let's
And
elaborate.
that's where I'm coming from.
What was that?
Bringing the Bible in it.
I said it's biblically based. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So that's my guide, and that's what I stand by. And again, it's because, but it's not biblically based. Some people perceive it to be a dominance thing. That's not where that's coming from. Because if the man is chosen to be the head, now the responsibility is on that man to love his wife, his children, and value her and treat her like she's the queen she is, period. Because that's
Sit her next to him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's it. It's not a dominance, So regardless of who's making the most money, and now the man better step up even more. If he's making a little less money and got a problem with that, he better remember who he's supposed to be. You still got to be the head of that household. And if you're joined with a woman who thinks otherwise, now y'all got to work that out. That's where the divide comes. Did you?
I was going to say that.
Did you choose the woman who's going to still, value and honor your place as the head of the household?
Right. I was going to say that because, you have some women that feel like, oh, he asked me to marry him. He's the breadwinner. He's supposed to do this. He's supposed to do that. And there's no support whatsoever from the woman. So that's where you have a lot of breakups, imbalance in relationships.
But that's what I was going to say, Shell. Those women that say that, how's that working?
Well,
That's what
let me ask y'all this too.
I'm sorry. That's what I asked, during ladies' night. Okay. How, are you going to value this man? I mean, that's what the problem is. Because you keep putting a man down. I mean, I can just relate to myself. Okay?
Constantly.
Is that when I go to work, when I was working 7 days a week, working from, going all overseas, all these places, and working to take care of my family. So when I come home, I think I deserve some respect or some appreciation, and that appreciation should be shown in some way or form, some way, of what I've done. All right? And unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I got like the traditional situation because of you being older, married. I'll be married 49 years in December. Okay? So when we got married, that was the case. I'm glad I'm coming up now, and trying to get married now because when you go marry, you got women that are a strong woman. I like a smart woman. But I defer to the fact that, and I'm not being narcissistic, I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything, but the man, is the man. That's just my mindset.
Yeah, let a man be a man.
Right.
We have roles. Everybody has a role.
Yeah, bro.
And it's very easy for people to defer to other people in every other aspect. You defer to vote for somebody to make laws for you, to go make legislation for you. You go to church, you listen to somebody. You go to school, you take orders, you listen to somebody, you go to a job. But when you come home, you can't defer.
Right.
I don't understand it. You do it everywhere else, but you don't want to come home and defer. And I'm not saying to defer as a detriment to help build you up. We won't sit. Listen, I might be running the house, right? I pay all the bills, I do all the things, right? But I can still let my woman sit next to me as if she's doing those things with me. Because she is. Because she's taking care of my kid. She's taking care of the household. She works as well. She has her own life. She has her own things that she's doing. All I ask for, hey, if I'm doing the heavy lifting, appreciate me a little. I don't care. I'm willing to do the heavy lifting, but I want to be appreciated. I want it to be seen that I did the heavy lifting and that you support me because I'm doing the heavy lifting to support you.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
All right.
So I have a question for you guys. What do you think about the women that are carrying the full load and the men that are home doing nothing to contribute? Because you have a lot of that with women that are very independent, they're making money, and they're taking care of men just to say they have a man.
I think the problem is hers first.
No, I think it's more multifaceted than that. And again, when if I talk about how you got to value the family, you got to value, I push the traditional values, okay, but I think we got to be a little more traditional about the men and women we choose, and we got to be traditional. We can't, and Michelle, Chris, Walt might not know. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know where I come from. I didn't always choose wisely. Matter of fact, yeah. So, I'm not coming from no holier than thou place, but I can look back and say that wasn't, I wasn't in it for the long haul, and I didn't choose for the long haul. So when I encountered a problem, I could tap out, or that other person could tap out. But I learned as I got a little older that I got to be a lot more strategic. I got to be a lot more. I'm looking for. Is she gonna be the one that's going run and cut bait and run, or is that the one I could depend on? But it's the same thing from a woman's perspective. Y'all got to give them some. Yes, you want the man to step up. You know when you got to observe him and check him out, see him through some good and the bad before you say, "Hey, I want his baby," or "I want."
How many times have we heard, and we've all heard this? a woman say, "Well, I just didn't want to be with him. He was corny. He was too nice."
Woof.
Hey, how many
A
times,
lot
right?
of times.
And then they go out and get these raggedy suckers and make these babies and just keep going and pick the same raggedy sucker.
Yep.
He ain't going.
Yep.
It ain't going. It's the
Ain't gonna
same
get no
thing.
better.
But he
Yeah.
And
cute.
then you got 3 or 4 babies from these raggedy suckers. Now you want to come to this gullible dude that you thought was a chump, and he's supposed to carry all that baggage? Are you kidding me?
Right. There you go. There you go.
I want
Mhm.
us to value, the woman should value who she is in the beginning. Value what she has, she's bringing to the table from the beginning. So she just ain't going to link up with anybody. The man too. We do it just as much and wonder why, she won't let me see my kid. She won't. That's who she was from the first place. That's who she was, but you didn't care because she had that big button and smile. So it didn't matter.
Had a good time with her.
You know what
Had a
I'm
good
saying?
time with her.
And I'm not telling you because I heard about it. I'm telling you because I did it. You know what I'm saying? So, but we gotta be a lot more traditional about choosing our mates. We can't be that haphazard about it because it's gonna come out in the end. It's gonna come out later on. And now, like you said, Chris, when it's raggedy, we sitting around wondering why.
Yeah, Chris, you want to answer Michelle's question also?
Yeah.
Okay. I was
there you
going to
go.
say, she got to take a long look in the mirror and say, what do I value? I chose this. This is what I'm going to get. Like, you don't need a man just because. And that's the problem. So she compounding the problem. Not only she know that she shouldn't be with him, she making babies with him now. So now you're almost stuck, right? Because you got to keep him around. Because, well, I want my kids to have their father in their life. But you knew he was a bum when you got with him. So listen, I tell people all the time, be very careful who you procreate with.
Right.
Because that is a lifelong relationship. Whether y'all stay together or not, you are connected through that child forever.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
I mean, the person get the short end of the stick or the key.
It's the child. Yep,
That's right.
the child.
Yeah, of course.
Because you don't want to be alone.
Right.
All right. Anyway, guys,
Right.
we're going late. I think we want to cut. All right. I do.
You gonna splice this one too, huh?
Yeah, computer.
You gonna splice this episode?
We went off on. We went in different directions, so yeah, you can.
Yeah, I mean, we got two episodes going here. But then again, that's why it's good to be,
No, but that little segue comes back to the subject.
Yeah, it comes back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
It's all connected, too.
It's all connected. That's right. It's intertwined, as they say. Right? So anyway, guys, any parting words for the ladies? Great.
Yeah, I say, based on, definitely from the episode, that things are usually a little more much more multi-dimensional than what y'all explained on the surface, I should say. There's a lot more to it, a lot more behind it than sometimes we kind of want to take that microwave answer, but it's a little deeper than that. And the bottom line is, everybody, all black males ain't struggling. All black males ain't scrubs. All black males don't need to be handheld and lifted and led around like babies by black women. Okay. By women, period.
Like Chris?
Yeah, he's correct, and he's saying there is a lot of layers to this, right? And Walt, it goes back to us being able to really truly be who we are as a race of people in a place where we haven't been fully accepted. And that plays into a part of our roles in these households. We are trying to live in a world dictated by what other people are dictating what we should value. Those things don't necessarily work for us. It may work in those households. And we're all human beings, but culturally we are different. And if we stick within our culture and stay grounded in that, I think we'll have better understanding of who we are and how we need to treat each other. Respect comes from it has to start in our community and work its way outward. It starts in your home and it continues on in every person that you interact with, all the things that you do. That respect should follow you everywhere you go,
All right.
especially
All right.
with each other.
Okay. I mean, I think I would like to point out that, and just reiterate, because, I can be redundant in what I say. That's because it's very important to me. And that's the way I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, as African Americans, we have to look ourselves, go to the mirror, look ourselves in the face. And that's the place I always go when I have a problem. I go look in the damn mirror. All right, I was taught that. And try to understand where we are and where we want to be. All right, and then do whatever's necessary to make sure you want to be on track to achieve that where you want to be. But our race is more than just me, you, Chris, Greg. It's more than that. We are African Americans. We're unique in this world. We're at the bottom of the ladder, and I think that if we don't make changes that are necessary, we're going to become extinct like the dinosaur. Until we realize that and take the necessary actions, as I said, we're going to go extinct. All right, because we're at the bottom. All right, only the strong survive in nature, and we got to look at things that way. Okay, and that's my closing statement for today. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining the Walt Weekly. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, also the host of this show. She's no longer co-host, she's the host. You know what I mean? So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her take us out. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
thank you guys. Thank you, Chris, Greg, for joining the Walt Weekly. You can find us at www.thewaltweekly.com, Instagram and Facebook at The Walt Weekly, LinkedIn at The Walt Weekly, all streaming platforms. And please follow us for all previous episodes with our panel, your host, Walter Latham Sr., and co-host, Michelle Sweeney Combs.